Fresh off of having lunch and looking fresh as fuck, it's me! That's all I have for intro. Yeah, I'm running out of these. I need a list of quirky intro ideas. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another video. I'm TheXploder, and today we'll be going down the rabbit hole of another one of my deck experiments. This time we're returning to Get Shifty, the Emerald Sapphire deck that I've been trying my best to make a competent list of, and I feel that this one is completely rubbish. And now you may be thinking, why the heck do you want to make a video on a deck that was bad? Because I don't want you falling into the same trap that I did, that's why. So let's dive into the list and why I really didn't like how this turned out. Let's go. So ladies and gents, here we are, Get Shifty version 2. You can check this out down in the description below, or you can join the Discord server where this will be up. Also, if it's not up on the Discord server, give me a shout because I normally forget, because I'm a very forgetful man. We're going to dive straight into it with the basic list and see how it goes. We've got 2 copies of Clarabelle Clumsy Guest. That helps us, well, banish items if we need to spend a little bit more, and a solid 1-drop in the Emerald, coupled with 2 copies of Clarabelle Light on Her Hooves on our top end to help us out if we do need the excess card draw later on, and she's a shift target, and we like to shift in this deck. Also running 4 copies of Basil the Practice Detective, a 2-1 with support. Nice, easy and basic, but we do also have the Shift Basil, which we're doing 4 copies as well, and this is the main direction we are taking the second version of Get Shifty, which is more towards the discarding route, because he is a 6-cost 4/5 for 2, shift 4, and during your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, pay 1, and chosen opponent chooses and discards a card. It's actually really quirky. I quite like this card a lot. We're also running 4 copies of Flynn Rider, the Charming Rogue, an absolute classic 2-drop. Coupling with him, however, we also have 2 copies of Flynn Rider, his own biggest fan. Big gamble, and it is a majorly big gamble, do not get me wrong, but if we are able to micromanage our opponent's hand to the point where they have nothing in hand or just less cards in their hand in general, this Flynn Rider can quest for a lot out of nowhere. Simple as. We're also running 4 copies of Hero Armada Future Champion. Makes sense. You shift onto him, you draw a card, helps out a little bit. And coupling with that hero, we also have 4 copies of the brand new Hero Armada Armor Designer, shift 5 4/6 for 3 lore, and your Floodborn characters that have a card under them gain evasive and ward. That's basically the main reason why I built this deck in the first place. To help us with our discard strategy, we're also running with 4 copies of Prince John, Greediest of All, just to help us draw cards whenever we discard cards. Also got 4 copies of Donald Duck, the Perfect Gentleman. He quests for 2, he's a 2/5, he's a shift 3 on a Donald lower, but there weren't any really good Donald targets in Emerald and Sapphire to make it worthwhile, so he does miss out on the Hero Armada tech, but at the start of your turn, each player may draw a card, so it can also help you with card draw. Yes, it benefits your opponent, but if you can micromanage their hand size with discard as well, might not be too detrimental, I would say. We're also running 2 copies of the Baymax Armored Companion. This is the one that comes out onto the board. You heal 2 damage off of another character, and you may receive 1 lore for each damage recovered in this way. Note that it is on other characters, not on Baymax himself, but he's still a solid card that's able to do quite a big play, and if you're able to play him on turn 5 and effectively get a 4 lore play out of it, that can even win you the game. But alongside that Baymax, we're also running 2 copies of Baymax the Giant Robot, the Universal Shift 4 5/5 for 2, and when you play this character as Shift, remove all the damage off of him. It's kind of crazy. Love this Baymax to bits. Only 2 copies because of the other Uninkables we have in the deck, so it's a bit of a balancing act, but that's effectively our character lineup. After the characters, we're running 7 different actions. We've got 4 copies of Hypnotize, we're discarding a card on our opponent's side, drawing a card on our side, simple as. We're running 2 copies of Bend to My Will, because if we do get that high onto our inking, then we're able to immediately discard our opponent's entire hand, and if we hopefully have a Prince John out, we can benefit from those draws as well. And the 1 copy of Ink Geyser, it's not an essential piece of the tech, but if we're able to get this Ink Geyser to go off, it can shaft our opponents while we can have a relatively strong board ready to go for next turn. Coupling this, we have 8 songs. We are running 4 copies of Sudden Chill, one of the best discard cards in general in the game. And quite frankly, you sing it, you discard a card from your opponent's hand, it benefits Prince John. It's just a win-win. Simple as. And also running 4 copies of How Far I'll Go. We need a little bit of ramp. We've got quite a lot of 4+ cost characters, so even if they don't quest, even if they don't use their effects, you can still at least sing with them to get a little bit of ramp and card draw out if you so need it. We then have 4 copies of Pulpsicle for our item lineup. That just helps us draw a card and remove a little bit of damage when we need to, as well as 3 copies of Prince John's Mirror. A little bit of a splash tech with Prince John as well, which means at the end of our opponent's turn, if they have more than 3 cards in their hand, they have to discard cards until they get to 3, which helps with Prince John greediest of all as well. Now, I said this deck was bad, and when I mean this deck is bad, oh yeah, I mean this deck is bad and I do not recommend it. The original version of Get Shifty worked a lot better. The problem I had with version 2, it's a little bit all over the place, and quite frankly, there's not enough things for Hero Hamada, our big boy, to really take advantage of. And what I mean by that, well, let's break things down. We do have Flynn Rider that can then shift into Big Flynn, but then we have 4 mini Flynns going into 2 Big Flynns, so that's only 2 targets right off the bat. We can't count Donald Duck Perfect Gentleman at all because we're not even running Morph, so there's 0 targets for Donald Duck, which means that no, Hero would not proc Donald, so Donald's just going to be the one that gets hit every single turn regardless. Helps with Baymax, but we really want to take advantage of a hero tech, and he's just not doing the work for us, sadly. With that in mind also, the one thing that was good and consistent about the deck was Basil. Playing Basil turn 1, shifting into other Basil from turn 4 onward was actually really solid, and then being able to micromanage our opponent's discards, having a Prince John greediest of all out on the board in order to then have a card draw engine going, actually worked really well, to a point where Clarabelle Light on Her Hooves wasn't necessarily needed some of the times. But she's in here because, number 1, we do have Clarabelle into Shift Clarabelle, so that procs Hero as well. And just in case we don't get the card draw from Prince John, at least we have another alternate way of drawing cards. It is a bit late because the earliest you're going to get her is Shift 5, so you need at least 5 ink to make her work. But it's fair. But because it was a little bit all over the place with our shifting and our targets, not very good. You're not going to get the Hero Armada to proc on everybody a lot of the time. There's barely any ramp in our character lineup, barely any ramp in our action lineup. The only form of ramp we really have in the entire deck is How Far I'll Go. And you're not even playing How Far I'll Go until you have 4 ink out, which is just way too late. So, quite frankly, we need a lower cost, cheaper options into ramp as best as we can if we want to pull off the strategy a little bit better, or cost reduction, which is another factor as well. I believe we have decent discarding options, but there are some other discarding options in here that aren't quite there. And like I said, it's just a bit of a jumble. The positive about this deck is that it's budget. So if you have a budget of $80, at least you can stay within that budget and have a deck that's okay. I just don't recommend it at all. I think it's a little bit too clunky. It's a little bit all over the place. And it didn't feel good to play. And that's one thing with me when it comes to deck building. I want to build decks that are fun to play and just have good vibes. So even if you don't necessarily win your games, you come out of the games feeling that you did your best, the deck worked the best that it could, and you have a good time playing your deck, because it should be fun to play your deck from beginning to end. This was not fun. Bearing in mind, I'm at a locals with I think about 20 odd people playing this deck, and it was not fun. From game 1 all the way up to the end of game 3, I was having a nightmare time. The vibes were off, the deck wasn't pulling its weight, I wasn't getting the mechanics out, I wasn't getting the procs off. I was lucky if I was able to discard and draw a card with Prince John. Quite frankly, this is the worst version of Get Shifty. I do not recommend it. If you want to try it, or use this as a base to make your own version, go nuts. You have my full encouragement to do so. But, like I said, I wanted to make this video to basically go over what I had in this version and say, yo, this didn't work, stay away. However, However, you may think different. You may look at this deck and think, oh, there's some quirky bits here, though. I might love it. And if you do love the idea of it, let me know down in the comments. This is version 2 of the deck. Version 1 of the deck you can check out already on YouTube. I'll be sure to put a little card on the screen for you guys so you can check that out yourselves. On top of that, there is a third version of the deck also, which I will be making a follow-up video with. The third version of the deck will have my iteration of Get Shifty version 3, but I also have a version of Get Shifty done by another person I play with at my locals that I think is a really good alternative to the list that I have, that I highly recommend as well. So if you're really interested in this color makeup and you really want to make a deck with Hero, I highly recommend keeping an eye out as to when the version 3 video will come out. That'll go over that tech as well, so you can get really into it to the best of our abilities. But with that being said, it's short and sweet. Go try it for yourself if you want, but please stay away. This is worse than Stinky Steel, even worse than Amber Steel, because it's, like I said, vibes. Gotta have them vibes. But until the next video, ladies and gentlemen, consider liking and subscribing so that you can support me and all my Lorcana efforts. And I'll be seeing you guys on another video. Until then, stay safe, stay awesome, most importantly, stay explosive. And I'll be seeing you guys next time. Boy, take that, holster that weapon. It's a dangerous loaded weapon. Be very careful when using finger guns, kids. They can hurt. Oh no, it's back!